Do you like watching movies or TV or reading books? Of course you do. Everyone does. Not everyone likes the same genres of movies or books, of course. Different people like dramas or comedies or sci-fi or documentaries, but everyone enjoys movies, TV shows, or plays. Furthermore, every human culture, for as long as we know, has had some form of written or spoken medium that was used to communicate ideas, feelings, and wisdom. What is the common theme that cuts across books and poems and movies and TV shows and operas and ballets and so on? You've probably guessed it by now based on the title of this course. It's stories. These are all stories. Storytelling is as human as language is. Indeed, telling stories is intimately tied to language. Language isn't necessary to tell a story, of course, but it is the best way to tell a story, particularly a story that gets long or complicated. Why are stories so ubiquitous? It's because they are so powerful, so memorable, and so captivating. An unordered list of facts is just really hard to remember, but a story is really easy to remember, particularly if that story follows the 5-stage structure that I will explain later in this course. That's because stories have a path, a trajectory, and a discourse. If you ever study tricks for improving your memory, then you will learn that one of the simplest and yet most effective ways to improve your memory is to tell a story with the things that you have to remember. Maybe that story is walking through your house and different rooms have different items. Maybe that story has something to do with sports statistics. Or maybe that story is just about making something memorable and funny. And this brings me to data. Data are not stories. Data are not easy to remember, and typically data are not easy to understand. The human brain evolved to understand stories. It did not evolve to understand data. That's why many people are more afraid of being in an airplane than in a car, even though the data clearly show that flying is much, much safer than driving. And it's why people are scared of terrorists, but not of junk food, even though the data clearly show that you are much more likely to die from preventable heart disease than from a terrorist attack. But on the other hand, data are so important. Without data, there would be no progress in science, in medicine, in engineering, in technology, in finance. Safety, health, and education, all these important areas rely on data. And now we are in the digital age, and everyone is increasingly aware of the power of data, and politicians are making important legislation based on, and indeed sometimes entirely about, data. So it's more important than ever to make sure that people understand and know how to interpret and communicate data. So it's more important than ever for people to understand the increasing amount of data in the world around them, what the data mean, how data can and cannot be interpreted, and how data must be protected. But data can be confusing and data sets can be really complicated. And this means that it is more important than ever for people like you to know how to present data in a way that is clear, memorable, and without causing confusion. I'm sure you see where this is going. The best way to present data is to embed the data in a story. Tell a story about the data or tell a story using the data. That way people will remember the data because they will remember the story. If you want people to remember what the data are saying, you have to embed the data in a story that's interesting and captivating. That is a very simple yet effective idea. Fortunately, it's also not so difficult. Once you learn a few tips and see a few examples, you will also gain proficiency at storytelling with data.